From the Cleary Alumni Center on the campus of the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, it's the Mike Schmidt Football Show. Brought to you by Honda Motorworks, your electric and hybrid headquarters at 4th and Cass. By Schilling Supply, serving businesses with critical supplies since 1897. By Schumacher Kish Cremation and Funeral Services in La Crosse, La Crescent, and Onalaska. By 360 Real Estate Solutions, they've got the keys to your new home. And by Market & Johnson, Western Wisconsin's construction leader, adding value to everything they do. Now, here's the host of today's program, Terry Erickson.
All right, welcome to UW-La Crosse. We are in the Cleary and Friends Alumni Center for the weekly Mike Schmidt Football Show here on KQEG. Show is live on the stream and played back each Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. As we do each week, we want to acknowledge our sponsors who make this show possible: Schilling Supply, Honda Motorworks, Schumacher Kish Funeral Homes, 360 Real Estate Solutions, and Market & Johnson. We also want to acknowledge a record turnout today here for this live broadcast of our friends. We have three new ones: Jack, Dick, Jim, along with our many of our other longtime fans. So we want to thank you for joining us here on the Mike Schmidt Show. And now, the star of the show, Coach Mike Schmidt.
Good to be back after another win, huh?
Well, I read the paper, it says an ugly win. An ugly win, but nonetheless, a significant win. A significant win for seniors, veterans, fans, and UWL football.
Yeah, big win for our guys. I think anytime you can continue to separate, when you take the big picture view of this thing, that now we're 3-0 against River Falls since being back here, and that's a big step, I think, for us to kind of separate ourselves from that grouping now. In all of us kind of that have been traditionally in the middle of the pack is big. That win puts us into second place alone with Oshkosh's loss. We're in second place alone in the WIAC. That's big going into the final week of the year here. And it was really big for our seniors to win that thing. You can see how hard those guys played. I mean, Eli McGeehan played an outstanding game. Colton Neiman comes up at the end of the game with a huge interception for us. Austin Mankowski had a great game. So really just those seniors played really hard. It's great getting them a win on the way out for those guys. And it's big for us. It's significant for us because it keeps us at least in the conversation for an at-large playoff bid.
Yeah, you're getting ahead of me because I'm going to ask you some of those questions. But let's go back to senior day. I know with our 5 children, we had senior day in high school, and it was emotional for Sue and I, and it's emotional for families, emotional for players. Whether they play or not, It's still emotional, meaning that they buy into the program. Culture is such a big part of what you've done here, and it was emotional for you, but I could see the body language. I could see you when you were hugging them before the game, after the game. Talk about that.
Yeah, I just think it's really cool. I mean, we all those guys run through the tunnel, and I get to see them, and I give them a big hug, and I tell them I love them, and I love you, Coach. This is the greatest thing ever. I mean, it was just really cool to have all those guys come through, get a chance to tell them, in a moment like that you love them, how much they mean to you. And again, I mean, this is, and I said it last week, I'll say it again, this is the last group of seniors that didn't have to pick me as their head coach. And so it's significant that you had a lot of buy-in there. And then the other half of guys are transfers that bought in and came in kind of in the middle of our transition. And so to have guys really believe in me and our coaching staff was really neat, I think, for us. But yeah, it's a special day because you kind of, after your last game, they kind of go away for a while. They're always in your life, but they're not really around you all the time. And so these are your last times to really make sure you get a chance that their parents and them know how much you care about them and love them. And certainly we had the opportunity to do that during the game, pre-game, post-game. It was just a big love fest.
Just to react to that real quickly, we talked about recruiting. We won't talk about that today, perhaps next week. But the biggest recruiting tool and asset you have is players when they leave the program, and you have developed that. No question about it. All right, penalties. Get into the game quickly. Penalties. They dominated the game. I'm not criticizing officials, but 21 penalties, 217 yards. Not characteristic of UWL, 8 for 90, but River Falls, 13 penalties for 117 yards.
Yeah, it was, I mean, that's a lot of them were just, there's a lot of bad blood there, I think was a lot of it. And not, I mean, not in a bad way, just neither team likes each other. And there was a lot of personal fouls within that. There was a personal foul on the head coach for UW La Crosse. He had one of those as well. She's not very proud of with it as he sits here. But I think that was a lot of it. You know, there was a lot of, I thought we ran the gamut. It was a lot of bizarre calls, kind of unique situations throughout it, and had a significant impact. We are the least penalized team in the league. They're the most penalized team in the league. And so I think you kind of saw those contradictions kind of work through each other.
I knew that. Well, out of the blocks, we're just a few seconds into the game. We'll talk about with our guest, Dominic LaBellarte. 72-yard pass. Shramsky finds him like, whoa, right out of the blocks. You score, it's like, this is going to be a powerful offense.
Yeah, I mean, we put such a high. That's why we take the ball. We try to get the ball. If we win the coin toss, we generally take the football because we want to score first. We run on momentum, and you know, Ben actually throws an interception on the first play of the game. They were lined up off sides, which negates that. We go right back at it. We underthrow him again, and Dom just goes up, competes for the ball, gets it, and finishes it off for us, and just sets the tone for what the game was going to be like, without a doubt.
Still in the first, Mankuski, he's one of my favorites,
Yes.
and he's putting together a good running game, a 2-yard run, first quarter, 14-0. Looked like this could be a runaway.
Yep, and you know, we kind of thought as we go into halftime there, and we're up, whatever, 20 or 17-0 or whatever it was. You know, we kind of thought like we had really dominated the first half, but just didn't on the scoreboard, and that makes it tough because, you know, how many chances are you going to give them? And ultimately, River Falls ended up running like 82 offensive plays, 90 snaps, but 82 plays with the penalties in there. And boy, I mean, it just felt like we kept having to go out there on defense, and we weren't able to find the points that we needed to all the time.
First half, you held the Falcons 22 yards on the ground, 58 through the air. They were frustrated. They exploded. Didn't keep their composure.
Right.
A third quarter, they make a change, actually for the best. It turned out to be. And
with their quarterback?
Yeah.
Well, he was ejected from the game for his second personal foul. So he didn't have a choice in leaving. That was his second personal foul, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. He has to go out, and you know, we reaped the benefits there. I mean, bad snap in the end zone and able to get that safety and then score on the ensuing drive after a bad punt out of bounds to put us up 29-0. You're up 29-0 in the second half. You feel pretty good about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't. We had to hold on and work our way through that thing sure.
Yeah, Mike, but the freshman, Heinrichsen, like he played doggone well in the second half. A 71-yard pass to Trenton Munson, who had a good game.
Yep.
Finally, in the fourth, you have another field goal. Ryan Byrne, by the way, 7 for 13 in field goals, and 30 for 32 in extra points. Final score 29-14.
Yeah, it was a big win, especially down the stretch. The way we were able to do it, we are able to run the ball out and run the clock out after Colton Neiman gets a big interception at the end to seal it. That was big. Just all of those things, getting the stop, running the clock out. It's a sign of a good football team, which we are.
Yeah, and you balanced your run pass, 103 yards on the ground and 273 in the air. But they held Simonchek, too, to only 55 yards. Shramsky, as we get ready for a break, Shramsky, 20 TDs and tops in the WIAC. And so it ended up being a great win. Well, speaking of a great win, we have two key players that were part of that win over the Falcons joining us right after this.
The all-new Honda Fit gives you the flexibility of the magic seat with the fuel efficiency you celebrate at the pump. From Honda Motorworks.
You'll love more miles per dollar. Honda Motorworks.
360 Real Estate Solutions has the keys to your new home. Introducing the Hub on 6th, rooftop lofted condos for sale. Beautifully designed with open floor plans up to 3 bedrooms. The Hub has what you need for city life, from studios to 3 bedrooms to fit your lifestyle and your pocketbook with the extra touches that matter. A rooftop sports court, bike storage with a washing center, community rooms, storage units, laundry, a pet walk, and a workout room. Get your tour today at hubon6.360.bz. Since 1897, Schilling Supply Company has been your single source provider of business solutions and supplies. Their 65,000 square foot facility stocks over 3,000 items ranging from packaging, janitorial, industrial, food processing, safety, and specialty products. Schilling Supply provides the essentials you need to meet your customers' and employees' expectations. Businesses like Gunderson, Quick Trip, Dynamic Recycling, and Badger Corrugating rely on Schilling Supply to deliver the right products at the right time. Schilling Supply Company. Visit on the web or call.
Stunning from any angle, the HRV is a crossover of style and versatility.
You'll love more miles per dollar. Honda Motor Works.
Welcome back to the Mike Schmidt Football Show here at UWL. Mike and I are joined by two key players, two players we talked about throughout the broadcast from Saturday's game, Dominic Labellarte, Max Brower. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks.
Well, Coach, I talked about him a lot during the broadcast. It's your turn to talk about him.
Yeah, I mean, Dom has another huge game against River Falls. Has had his two best games probably of his career against those guys. I mean, he's had a couple of really good games this year as well with it. But I mean, just the two big plays that he had, obviously for the touchdowns the other day, but has another over 100 yards, way over 100 yards, two touchdowns against them, and he really had a great game against them last year as well. So, you know, those are just plays where he's just beating somebody and getting open, and Ben puts it on him. One Ben puts it on him, and the other one Dom has to go and really work for, which he's got to go and do, and that's kind of what he does. But does a great job getting the football for us, and had a huge game obviously the other day. And then Max, I mean, comes back and has just an incredible game for us on Saturday. They were going to challenge him. They did challenge him. We shut out Herrick. He has no catches against us after throwing it up to him a bunch of times. And Monson, we let him get loose because we let the quarterback out of the pocket, and he scrambles around and has a great play. But those are two great wide receivers that our corners did just a great job keeping in check. And, you know, Max just comes back and competes and has, I mean, by far his best game of the year in everything across the board. And I'm just so happy for him in the way he played.
I'm going to reveal those stats too, but you said to me in our meeting on Friday that people maybe don't appreciate the skill set of the Falcon wide receivers, and you were right.
Yeah, they're good players.
They stepped up to the task. Well, Dominic from Brookfield Central, major in accounting. Now, you talked about his stats a little bit. Season high, 161 yards on Saturday. I'm sure a lot of our people know this. Season high of longest reception of 72 yards, 26 catches on the season, 552 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Go back to August training camp. Fast forward to where we are today. Did you think you would have that much success?
I mean, Kinda. I work my tail off in the off season and during the camp, and hard work really does pay off in the end, and I believe I put in the hard work in the off season.
Well, and you're a great compliment to Cole Speaker. A 1-2, and then you got Amos. I mean, people look at, oh, we got to stop Cole Speaker. Don't forget about Dominic Labalarte. And you actually torched him. And I think your route running skills and your ability to explode after the catch maybe are two of your greatest assets, would you say?
Yeah, I would say one is my speed. But it is also very nice to have another receiver on the field that they start keying up on, so then allows you to get open, makes it a lot more easier for yourself and the offense, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Max Brower, sophomore from the Woodlands, Texas, St. Thomas High School, way down Houston area.
Houston, yeah.
This is something I looked up today, and this really struck me, so I had to bring this up. The motto of St. Thomas High School, a Catholic all-boys school, is this: teaching goodness, discipline, and knowledge.
That's right, yeah.
You knew that?
I knew that.
You better know that.
Is that similar to the model of UWL? And how did you take that? Because you lived that model in that private school,
right,
and you brought it all the way up here to La Crosse, Wisconsin. Talk about that.
Well, going to an all-boys Catholic school, is different than, a public school. The education, the curriculum, and it's a lot harder, and there's a lot. And I lived in the suburb of Houston. I drove into the city, so participating in 2 sports just really forced me to be dedicated, and disciplined with my time throughout high school. So I think that helped me, coming to college, being a student athlete. You need to just stay disciplined and manage your time well.
What was special about St. Thomas High School?
I think it was an all-boys school, so just like the brotherhood aspect of it, and as I said, just the difficulty of the schoolwork, and then also being a student athlete.
Okay, the brotherhood. That's exactly what UWL football is all about.
Right.
You got your teammates' backs. Isn't
right.
that a form of brotherhood?
Yeah, it is. Just being selfless, and if you just got to make it bigger than yourself, it's gonna force you to work harder and want to succeed for your teammates, not just yourself.
Coach, you talked a little bit about his stats. Season high 11 tackles versus Stout, 2 interceptions on the season, 2 fumble recoveries. And maybe an underappreciated statistic, you mentioned it, Coach, you broke up 3 passes and you rose to the occasion against a pretty explosive, somewhat underappreciated Falcon offense. How did you prepare yourself for that?
Well, going in, we knew that that was the strength of their team, really. It's their 2 wideouts and their quarterback. They're number 1 passing offense coming in. So, as DBs, we knew we were going to have to go out there and make plays and to put our defense in position to succeed.
Dominic, let's reflect back on your high school days. Talk about how you prepared for UWL. What brought you here, and what things were you involved with at Brookfield Central?
I was involved in a lot of sports. I played football, played basketball, played baseball, and I was just dedicated in all those sports. And actually, I didn't even come here my freshman year. I went to school up in the cities. I went to St. Thomas, and ended up transferring here. And knowing that transfer was really the right decision for me, and transferring really helped me proceed as a human.
Did you have skills that somebody recognized when you were young? I assume you didn't. Think back to who inspired you to someday plant the seed of you could be a collegiate athlete?
I'd probably say my dad. When I was in 5th grade, my dad always said you always have the speed, you always have the determination, you always have just the fight in you, and I know that he told me that day in and day out, and that's where that really helped get me to where I am now.
Your major, and where may you go someday with your career?
My major is accounting. It's pretty boring stuff, but I'm planning on sitting for my CPA, working for a firm, hopefully somewhere Milwaukee.
Good. And well, there's a lot of firms in lacrosse, but we can't forget about Max, your career and your major and where we see you. By the way, both of you are only sophomores, so you're going to be on the show at least twice more in the next couple of years. Max?
Yeah, I'm an exercise sports science major, so I'd like to, take that and go into the sports performance field, so I could just be a strength and conditioning coach at a college, or, go off on my own and have my own facility, hopefully down the road, is helping young athletes.
Who inspired you when you were young?
I wouldn't say there's just a person that inspired me to do that. It's just something that I've always loved to train, and and just watching videos on ways to get bigger, faster, stronger.
One last question before we close. Your parents able to come up from Texas and watch any game?
Yeah, my dad's come to 2 home games this year. My mom, she's come to 1.
Good.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right, you guys stay healthy. Big game on Saturday at Eau Claire, and wish you the best. Thanks for being on the show.
No problem.
All right, guys. We'll be back with some thoughts about Eau Claire and other things going on campus right after this. Good job, guys. You are?
The all-new Honda Fit gives you the flexibility of the magic seat with the fuel efficiency you celebrate at the pump. From Honda Motorworks.
You'll love more miles per dollar. Honda Motorworks.
Stunning from any angle, the HR-V is a crossover of style and versatility.
You'll love more miles per dollar. Honda Motorworks.
Welcome back to the Mike Schmidt Show. Well, big win again over River Falls. You accomplished a lot of goals. You said early on you're at number 2 in the conference now, and we'll come back and visit that. But a look at Eau Claire at Carson Park. Talk about that.
Yeah, this has been a really back and forth series, especially over about the last 20 years. It's right around 500. I mean, nobody and there's been some good teams on both sides of that have lost in this rivalry, and it is to us. This is another big one, as we viewed the Platteville game last week, that we viewed it like, hey, Eau Claire beat us our first year here. We beat them our second year here. This is a big rubber match here in terms of where our programs are at. And this is a big one for us, and we know that. It's been a good rivalry back and forth over the years. It's that early game at Carson Park or at our place, and now it's not. It's actually going to be a 2:30 game because the Badger game got picked up, and so now we're going to be at 2:30, which is a big benefit that we don't have to get there and get out of here so early for our teams. But boy, Eau Claire beats Platteville a couple weeks ago. at Platteville, and then they beat Oshkosh this past weekend, hosting Oshkosh. It's a team that's winning a lot of games and playing really hard right now.
Well, there'll be so many people watching that game, Coach, because there won't be competition with the Badger game.
That's right.
So that's great that it's on at 2:30.
Huge.
Okay, you said coming over an upset win over Oshkosh, 20-14, 2 field goals down the stretch.
Yep.
What is happening with the Titans?
I don't know that. Eau Claire just played really hard. It's really interesting. We're going to be really similar to them. There's not a lot of flash on either side, us and them. They have a ton of sacks. We're actually 1 sack behind them in conference play this year. I think they have 37 overall. We have 32, which are our most sacks like ever here. When you look at some of those things, 2 really similar teams that are just playing really hard, and that's exactly what happened last week is that Eau Claire just came ready to play, and they played really well. They're playing really good football right now. They don't turn the ball over. They don't take sacks on offense. They get after the quarterback. They're incredibly multiple and aggressive on defense. So, it's going to be a fight certainly on Saturday.
Well, their defense kind of concerns me. Looking at,
Yes.
first, their offense, 358 yards against Oshkosh. They held the Titans to 160 yards, and they held Radovich to 49 yards passing.
Yeah,
It's like,
ridiculous.
you got to be kidding.
Yeah, they're just playing really well. They're super aggressive. They give you a bunch of different looks up front. They blitz and bring guys all over the place. Their front, really 7, they just play like crazy up front. And so when teams take care of the football, I mean, this is also a team that 2 weeks ago gave up 40 to River Falls. So let's not, I mean, we're not running into Alabama's defense here right now. That's not the case. You got to be really smart with the football. They're a really good defense, but 2 weeks ago they just gave up 40 to River Falls too. So I mean, they play really hard, and they're predicated on you making mistakes up front and at the quarterback position. So Ben knows that, and our O-line know that. We're going to be ready for him for sure.
So you're concerned, obviously. Well,
without a doubt.
Around the WIAC, Stout over Platteville, 38-33. Am I seeing things?
You are. And Stout runs the last 5.5 minutes out and scores with 4 seconds left in the game to win it. So, the league is crazy right now.
Well, Whitewater continues to roll over,
Yep.
50-7 standings. Whitewater on top 6-0. Our Eagles second, 4-2. Oshkosh and Stout 3-3, and Eau Claire, Platteville, River Falls, and Point all 2-4. Biggest concern to prioritize on Saturday?
Oh, it's obviously going to be taking care of the football. This team, they're thriving on turnovers right now, turnovers and sacks. Ben's got to take care of the football. Very similar to what happened this week. If we could, at River Falls, we said the same thing, right? If Ben does a good job and has good accuracy, we're going to win the football game. Same thing. If Ben takes care of the football, we take care of the football on offense, and we play sound defensively. We're going to be in a good position to win the football game.
Well, with Ben's leadership abilities, and I'm a fan of his, and you know that, and he knows that, I just feel that he'll end his season, end his regular season.
Yes.
But before we go to close this, there's still a chance. This is so significant. So please share this. There's still a chance that the Eagles will go to the postseason. Definitely,
there's a chance. It's an outside chance still, but there's definitely a chance that we can make the playoffs. Craziness happened all over the country, really, in Division III this past weekend. So there were a bunch of upsets kind of all over the place. We are in position. I don't know what that means exactly, but we're going to be one of those. We could sneak in as the last team in for sure.
Okay, well, boy, I'm excited for that. Around campus, women's soccer won the WIAC
Good for them.
Championship Saturday night under Jason Murphy, beating Eau Claire, receives an automatic berth. It will be announced
right now.
Afternoon.
Right now,
At
the show's starting right now.
Women and men's cross country and NC2A championships. I'm excited for Coach Derek.
Basketball starts this week.
Exactly.
Here we go. Games are going.
All right. Well, this has been a great show again. Hope you enjoyed the Mike Schmidt Show. We want to thank our sponsors, and we'll be here each week. We'll be here next week on Tuesday of next week with the WIAC meetings on Monday to take an in-depth look at the Eau Claire game and what's ahead for the Eagles, and we hope it is a playoff game. I'm excited. I'm sure everybody on campus knowing that is a possibility.
Yes.
So, for Mike Schmidt, I'm Terry Erickson, thanking you for joining us today on the Mike Schmidt Football Show. Nice.
You've been watching the Mike Schmidt Football Show on KQEG TV. The Mike Schmidt Football Show is brought to you by Honda Motorworks, your electric and hybrid headquarters at 4th and Cass. By Schilling Supply, serving businesses with critical supplies since 1897. By Schumacher Kish Cremation and Funeral Services in La Crosse, La Crescent, and Onalaska. By 360 Real Estate Solutions, they've got the keys to your new home. And by Market & Johnson, Western Wisconsin's construction leader, adding value to everything they do. Join us next week at this same time for the Mike Schmidt Football Show.